1, 2, 3.
Kirin Lagabiru, more than ever, Adam. It is Indiana Jones weekend still, I think, through Tuesday. It is Indiana Jones week and a half. It's Indiana Jones lifetime for Adam and I, but an especially exciting week with the Dial of Destiny opening up.
It is a national holiday, Paul. Am I coming through okay, by the way? I am reporting to you live from Spencer's Coffee in downtown Bowling Green.
Yes, not exactly, I don't think, celebrating the holidays in Ohio, right? Is that how it's going?
Yeah, close enough. Hey, it is a national holiday. There's a new, not only is there a new Harrison Ford movie in theaters, which is always a national holiday, but this is an Indiana Jones movie. Paul, did you ever think in your lifetime there would ever be such a thing and that we would have devoted a show to him for 2 years only to then earn an Indiana Jones movie to talk about?
Like when I was 11, did I go, boy, 42 years from now, it's going to be exciting to see another one of these.
Right.
Crazy.
Insane. It's crazy. Yeah. And the thing is, too, and we'll get into it as well, and I think we need to do a segment where we criticize the critics. I've always said that. So the Critics Corner, we call it Critics Corner, and we just put up what critics have said and yell at them.
I wish I pulled actual quotes. I've got things they've said, but I wish I could attribute them properly, but perhaps in the future.
Well, here's the thing. I'm extremely good at not hearing what other people think of things, but gathering what has been said about things through the few people I will read the criticism on Twitter. So I've gathered from all the extensive internet research that all of these people who are given advance tickets to be able to get the very first opinion on Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, I have gathered from all of them, all of these experts, all of these critics, that there's CGI in this movie. And that's about the extent of the information that they have related to me. So good job, Internet. You're right. That was, in fact, CGI. And, of course, they confuse constantly the idea of recognizing special effects with those effects being bad. And here we are once again. The worst generation of critics cinema has ever propped up. They're just so bad at this.
Yeah, well, there's a limited vetting process for their.
Are you saying the no vetting process, as opposed to when we were younger and you had to maybe get a career in journalism first and then realize that you were more interested in movies than the weather? And they would go, well, why don't you write about movies then? There we are. That is a guy
did the work.
In fact, Paul, you bring up Roger Ebert there. When is the first time you fell in love with Roger Ebert? I'm sure it's the time I did too.
Boy, it may have been
in relation to Indiana Jones.
Oh, well, I was going to say it's probably the Return of the Jedi review. Actually, I remember it was the first time because back then media was so not easy to get, and I think the first clips I saw, and I remember specifically it was the fly casual scene was shown during the review, and I was just going, I'm watching, this is a clip from the new movie, everybody shut up in the house, Mom, Dad, shut your fucking face. And so that was, and then of course they think they liked that, didn't they? I mean, maybe I don't remember, but I remember their show giving me access to that clip, and I was so excited.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's but yeah, you're right. The media was so sparse back then. I've always shared the experience of when Return of the Jedi came out, that Entertainment Tonight ended their show with the credits with footage from Return of the Jedi, and every shot from that, if I go through Return of the Jedi with you, I go, that was in it, that was in it, that's what it was, burned into my head, and it just sat there for the 3 days I had to wait until I could see Return of the Jedi. That's those shots. You're like, wait a second, it's like Luke in the dungeon, and then there's like the AT-STs blowing up trees, and I'm like, whoa, what did I just see? Oh my God, what did I just see?
Everybody. Burr, 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 Sneak previews.
We've got to redo the opening to that for this show. It's got to be you and I doing the opening to the old Siskel and Ebert show. Would be just absolutely perfect.
And of course, later it was.
And then at the end it would go da-na-na, and right into a clip.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's how you would find out what they were going to talk about that week. It was like, well, see, I fell in love with Roger Ebert because I was learning what movies were, and I watched an Oscars the year. I'd watched, Star Wars not get nominated or not get respected at the Oscars, and then I started catching, oh, that's not what wins Oscars. I was like learning what Oscars were. I was too young, and then and I remember Raiders of the Lost Ark just getting no respect from all the Gene Shalitz or whatever, and then Ebert's like, got it. He got what was great about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he laid it all out. And I'm a young fan. I'm like, well, what do I like about this? I'm still learning that sort of stuff. And like when he laid it out, I was like, oh my God, one of these critics actually gets what's great about this movie. And he came up with the whole idea, which I've said over and over, is it's such a seamless story. And at that time, I'm learning what screenwriting is and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I like about it too. I learned from him what I liked about it.
Well, you remember the Dial of Destiny reviews out of Cannes put it under 50% at the dead vegetable meter. And that was, so it was like 49%. I was like, oh, that's
Don't they have dead Frenchmen over there? Isn't it a dead Frenchman scale in Cannes? I can't remember. Or dead, flimsy croissants?
Witheredwinegrapes.com.
Baguettes, yeah, witheredbaguettes.com.
Yeah, moldybaguettes.com.
Moldybaguettes.com. Yeah, how much mold is on the baguette with their opinion of Dial of Destiny?
Well,
we're clearly, Paul, we're taking criticism so seriously. We're comparing it to rotten vegetables. Shut up.
So you've got under 50% critics and nothing from audiences who haven't seen it. Well, lo and behold, I knew this would happen. This is where we are now. It got up to 68 once more critics saw it, and the audiences weighed in, and I knew you get this movie amongst the people. They're going to enjoy it. There's going to be loud people who don't, but overall, it's loved.
Yeah. But and as well it should be.
As well it should be. Absolutely.
And by the way, we poke fun at Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, they employ a very good friend of ours. And the key to that stat that you just put up there that people very much misunderstand about that site, and we just flippantly call it the rotten vegetables or whatever, but is underneath the audience score, it's 2,500 people have weighed in on that. 300 people have weighed in on the other one. I think that's often overlooked. They're like, oh, what percentage? Well, percentage of 2 is one person likes it. That's 50%. That's the key thing. Is 2,500 people have weighed in and said, "Wait, yeah, this is a banger."
You're talking about Mark Ellis, right? Our buddy Mark.
Yeah.
Who works there, but he does do a show called Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. So if we're gonna have one guy on the
inside,
that's
true.
We have one guy on the inside doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's true. That is very zeitgeist of his show to be called Rotten Tomatoes, which is Rotten Tomatoes knows, like, look, this is divisive. We're just trying to aggregate the two different spheres of movie reviewing. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is wrong. So I guess if there's anybody was wrong about this, we'll hop on the show and set it straight.
Of course, William Bibiani's on there too, and some other people we like. I think Liz Shannon Miller is certified. But
right.
The point is, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, click on Top Critics. Just see,
or Video Drew.
Video Drew, right?
Yeah, that's right. I remember
we're getting in there. We're getting into the circles now of people who do this kind of thing. So,
yeah, which is very cool. I love that we have friends, and I love that we have friends that are critics that I totally love and respect. Like, even if I disagree with William Bibiani, his analysis is mwah.
Absolutely.
And certainly, and even like I subscribe on Patreon to the critically acclaimed because they put out so many great shows, Bibiani and Whitney Seibold. And Whitney Seibold is a classic person I disagree with 90% of the time, but I'll listen to what he says every time, Yeah.
Same with Dan Murrow.
And listen to those two. Yeah, ditto. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dan has, but of course we became friends with Dan because we had such things that we loved that were so, in line with each other too.
I'm sort of scared to see his Dial of Destiny review. Although I asked Mara when she was here what it was, and he said, no, he liked it. I don't think he loved it, but he liked it, so that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had this vision in my head, and I was telling her, it probably came out weird, but I'm like, I don't know. I just think he hates it. I don't know why.
And you're worried. You're like, I don't want anything to come between us as friends. And for you and I, we're like, if you don't like this, we may not be hanging out much longer.
All about Pauline Kael. You want to know about Pauline Kael? Throughout the typo. Is that
Pauline Kael? Pauline Kael, her evil
Kael.
twin, her Marxist evil twin. Yeah.
Is that what Tarantino's movie is going to be about? That's speculation, but his 10th and final film is called The Movie Critic, and there's speculation it's about Kael, and we goof on her in the Ford Fiesta all the time because each movie of Harrison Ford's we look at towards the end of the once over, we give these movies. We do talk about the critics and how they handled the movie, what the percentages are in Metacritic and that kind of thing. Quote some of them and all. And Kael just hates everything. So that's what does she think of all these? Who knows? I mean, I just assume she hated it. And Jonathan Rosenbaum of the Chicago Reader also hated it. These are just
he is everything
personalities they put out there.
Yeah, Rex Reed and he are what's the worst about critics because things can only be respectable if they're unpopular or only appeal to such a small intellectual demographic. And so it's like movies that are popular aren't automatically bad. Obviously they're not. They work or they don't work. I mean, you can release a blockbuster that it turns out not to be a blockbuster, or you can release one that is wildly popular. I mean, there obviously is something better about Avengers Endgame than Thor 2. Because, just looking at the box office even is like, wow, that's something that, caught fire or whatever. Well, it's because it's good filmmaking. There just is no accident on that, I think.
Yeah, I don't take to the movieguys.net much with written reviews anymore. I did it for Thor Love and Thunder, speaking of Thor Love and Thunder, because I thought that film was unjustly maligned. It was right on par with Ragnarok, but for some people went, no, this is terrible. I'm like, it's the same shit with a lesser collateral damage body count, so it was more fun, I thought.
Yeah, here's the thing. At their worst, critics feel very guilty for liking popular things also. So the Thor Love and Thunder, by the way, people were so duped. Everyone acts like they were always on board for Marvel the entire time. Bullshit. But as it kept going, and you're like, wow, you can make a third in a series that's this good that quickly. 1 year later, you've got Captain America and Thor and all this, and people just kept saying, oh, we're tired of superhero movies. They've been saying that since Ben Affleck's Daredevil, by the way. So that is like a dumb criticism. But I mean, like, guys, you've really kind of blown it. Or the whole thing of like, when are they going to run out of superheroes? What's next? Ant-Man? And before they even do that, they released the Guardians of the Galaxy, which nobody had heard of. You could round it up to nobody, and so like Marvel beat them at every corner until they got to Endgame, and everybody had to just go, well, these 25 movies are quite a miracle, and we're going to hate everything after this because you made us feel so good about it. How dare you? And so now something like Love and Thunder, you're like, really? I think Love and Thunder, the reviews of that is going to age so badly because it's just purely people that didn't want to like it. And also, what's so weird is you see on Twitter, you'll see from the same account, you'll see, Mighty Ducks 3 is a masterpiece, and I stand by it. Now, that's classic Twitter snark or whatever. You take a movie that everybody hates. Well, for example, Dial of Destiny. Have we seen Twitter filled with not Dial of Destiny, Crystal Skull? Twitter is full of people like, Crystal Skull's the best indie movie, and I stand by it. Now that's them going, everybody fight me, get on here and say I'm full of shit, and then I can, that's the Twitter game or whatever.
How many clicks and likes and follows? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the whole thing is, eventually, on a long enough timeline, everything becomes retro, and you love it no matter how bad it was back then. So it's like, for Love and Thunder, it's like, why don't you guys just chill out for 5 years, and you'll go, well, that's great, and I stand by it, and it'll be easy to say because that's a great movie. It's very hard to make a comedy that funny and that tight, as you and I can attest to.
We will have fun with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull Ford Fiesta whenever we get to it. It's a slow road, but it was still in the 80s. But I'm softening.
Sure.
I am softening on that film.
Yeah, and and so maybe this is our entry into Dial of Destiny a little bit here. What I've always said about, and I love sequels. I love franchises. I love sequels. I love superhero movies. I love super dash hero movies like Indiana Jones. He's not a superhero, but he is a superhero. He does more than the average person to make sure that justice is served for, retaining the relic and dispelling the bad guy. He's a superhero. He can fall off of everything and not get hurt. That's not a superhero, but a superhero. So I love all these things so much. And where was I going with that?
Let's see. You were saying something about. Hang on, it's processing.
I'm in the bag for this.
Still getting a spinning circle. Not that I'm uploading anything.
Are you trying to play a drop?
Yeah, but it's sitting there taking 90 years to load. Oh well.
Oh, okay. Here's my point. You were
talking about
interrupt me. Okay, so I'm in the bag for
I really don't understand the rap against sequels. If you happen to come up with an idea that millions of people vote with their dollars in favor of, why wouldn't you make 100 of those? By the time you get to the fourth in any series, they've created a whole universe with nuance and characters. They've created a whole mythology by that time. And the great thing about it is they've expanded it from something that wasn't meant to be expanded in the first place. Any fool can write you an original story. But to take that original story and build upon it and build upon it and build upon it long after its natural, original, and satisfying conclusion, well, that takes genius.
There we go. Find that guy's name. That's a critic I like right there. He gets it. But what I've also developed amongst my many theories about pop culture is that nobody knows what a franchise is until the second or third movie, right? So, does James Bond always begin with him on a mission and then go into the opening animation and then get his mission from Q?
He does always in that one movie, but then you find out after. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. But, it's not until like Goldfinger that the whole thing that's how it goes. Is Friday the 13th about a guy in a hockey mask that kills people? Not in the first two movies, but so then, when you make a sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, you could say, well, Raiders of the Lost Ark, those movies are movies where people look for lost arks. If you wanted to, if you're being really dumb about the sequel, you go, well, then he goes and finds a different ark, right? But obviously you can get, or someone can go, oh no, it's a guy who
is the Shroud of Turin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, movies don't figure out what they are in terms of being a sequel or a franchise, and obviously there's no pressure on the first movie in a series to do any of that. And when you look at Temple of Doom, Spielberg and Lucas felt no pressure to go, well, what is the thing that worked there? They just went, well, what else would we like to do? And that's why you get this odd movie as the sequel, Temple of Doom, because they're like, oh, we wanted to put all this stuff in Raiders of the Lost Ark, or what Lucas wanted to put in Star Wars that ended up in The Phantom Menace. And everybody's like, what are you, insane? And he's like, no, this is what I always meant to do. I just didn't have the budget for it. And you're like, but that's not what a Star Wars movie is. But, they only know what those movies are based on what they would like to do next with it. It takes a Mangold or a J.J. Abrams or something to analyze it from the outside and go, oh, no, you know what a Raiders of the Lost Ark movie is? It's this. And that's what we get to see in Dial of Destiny, which is, I feel like you and I have such an advanced understanding, I think, of Indiana Jones movies. But I was clocked by Mangold watching this, and I go, oh, no, he gets what an Indiana Jones movie is more than even I do. And so you get to watch that almost judgment-free going, oh, I'm in such good hands here. Is an Indiana Jones a movie where, you have these sort of chases at this sort of pace or whatever, or where for example, in Temple of Doom, is an Indiana Jones movie about a college professor who does these things? Not Temple of Doom. But as of Last Crusade, you go, oh, we go back to the college. And so now, as of Last Crusade, you go, okay, Indiana Jones movies that begin with an adventure. They go to the college, they gets called into another thing, and then they were off and running or whatever. Is an Indiana Jones movie always about family? Not until Last Crusade, and now Mutt comes in the Crystal Skull. We've got his goddaughter in this one. And you're like, okay, they are about family. Family does come into play, and that's how we inform Indiana Jones' character, as opposed to say Temple of Doom, where we don't really get any new layers to Indiana Jones except for the basic fortune and glory that you do it for people and not for things, you know. But which is done in great effect here too, when he is given. Well, I'm skipping way ahead here, but at some point he's given the choice between, you know, now no longer with his family, being somewhat alone. They say, "Do you want this treasure or do you want your goddaughter?" And he immediately hands the treasure over. I don't care. Do what you're gonna do with it. I don't care. I mean, that's that choice. The same choice he makes with the rocket launcher and the ark and all that sort of stuff. It's a big deal in that scene, you know, because it's the first time you see Indy go, I care for Marion more than the ark, you know, whereas he left her in a tent and very much proved in an amazing screenplay that they made it a point that he's like, no, I care more about the ark than you, Marion. Bye. you know, and in this one, I love they have that choice where he makes, and he immediately goes, no, take the treasure. No, I'm gonna save her.
Yeah. By the way, we're probably going to talk spoilers, right? For anyone who's watching. So
yeah, that was not that.
Dial of Destiny. There'll be a little spoiling going on.
Well, let's start non-spoiler.
I want to make sure I play this because you mentioned these two guys. I saw that picture. I've never seen this picture before.
No,
guys.
Look at them. Look at them, not in the middle of that bridge.
But about to send somebody, a number of people out there. That's
a number of people. Yeah, boy, those guys. But man, does Mangold get it or what? I mean, you know, the question you have to ask, and of course people would rebel against if they felt that Mangold had compromised his style to ape the style of Steven Spielberg. But either Mangold's style has always been pretty Spielbergish, and it is just a shift from fourth to fifth gear for him, or vice, or whatever, you know, because I'm like, wow, he really gets the fun, subtle ways to storytell or reveal something, you know. Let's start with the first scene of the movie in World War II. I think we all know that because Disney their trailers are comprised entirely of the first 20 minutes of the movie, and never almost anything after that, which is unbelievable. Anybody saying that trailers give away too much is on autopilot, because that's been fixed certainly by Disney. Because any movie you go see, Marvel, Star Wars, whatever, about 20 minutes in, you're like, that's all the clips I've seen from the trailer. Maybe there's one more coming up, you know, somewhere.
Sorry, I thought you were going on to another point there.
No.
So, all right. Well,
trust me, I will.
All right. So, Roach Smythe, big watcher of the show, hasn't seen it yet, so we'll keep it on the low. We will go big time spoilers. Paul, can you make a spoiler thing below in case, like, you know, Roach Smythe pops away? Like, make a little thing. Don't put it up just yet, because I think we can talk. But we can talk much about what happens in this without spoiling it. For example, obviously in the trailer, we are treated to a World War II, and I'll start off with this on the World War II thing. Here's a great thing that Rian Johnson. So hang on, just to test this out. So this will come out if we're going to spoil. When we're done spoiling.
Okay. There we go. That's good. That's good. And
are you going to spoil now?
No.
Okay.
Because we're going to start with the one thing we know from the trailer is that a portion of this takes place in World War II. And then we move on to another portion that is clearly laid out in the trailer, which is that a portion of this takes place at a parade in New York on horseback. And so we'll get up through that, and then we'll ease into spoilers. And I think there's a gigantic spoiler we may not even want to mention, I think. You know.
I agree.
Which is
I don't know what you're talking about, but I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, we'll figure out how to talk about that. We'll talk about choices being made without saying what those choices are. But because I really would like, even accidentally, for anybody to hear that. And we could talk about that next week or whatever. But let's start with World War II. And the point I would make on that is, and when I say that these people, it was once said about Wim Wenders, the filmmaker who made a movie in Texas, and somebody said it takes a German to show you what Texas is like, because Texas
you said
filmmakers,
that about the Australian shooting Pennsylvania for Witness,
yeah, and I'm taking that analogy kind of like a sidestep further, but the idea that only James Mangold can make a Steven Spielberg movie in this way, in some ways, you know, Spielberg is too close to Paris, Texas, and they said only a guy from Germany sometimes it takes a guy from Germany to figure out how to shoot Texas, because everybody shooting in Texas is used to the things they're seeing. And whereas Wim Wenders comes in and goes, "Oh my God, have you seen this road stop, broken down car?" And everybody else is like, "Yeah, we drove past it. A bunch of hillbillies left that car." I think, "No, it's beautiful," But I think that with this too. So Rian Johnson, when he directed The Last Jedi, and even JJ directing the other two around it, was clearly my age, clearly watched those movies the way I watched them. And I'd say the same thing here with Mangold. For example, it's underappreciated, but at the end of Rise of Skywalker, or not the end, when they go off on the mission, everybody's in the same ship together. So, for large parts of that movie and of the original Star Wars, Luke is off on Dagobah and Han and Leia. And when they finally get them together in the Shuttle Tidarian in Return of the Jedi, we go, "Oh, they're all together." And they get up and they go and they have some fun and they do, adventures together. But then immediately Luke has to go off to Vader and they're separated, and you go, "Oh man, I want to see a movie where they're all together." The reference in Rise of Skywalker that they all stay together and do a mission together is him saying how disappointing that was in Jedi that they didn't stay together for the mission. So that's like a lesser reference level. And the same thing is happening here. I think you were as disappointed as I was when we saw the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that's not the period on that sentence, but at the beginning of it, there's a comma when in the World War II scene, they've got him and they're after the nuclear explosion, they're scrubbing him down, and now the agents, including Neil Flynn from The Fugitive, are reading him the writing, and they're reading off of all of his accolades. And as they read it, you go, "Oh my God, he was a colonel in World War II," and you're like, "I want to see that Indiana Jones movie." And that's one of the frustrations of Crystal Skull, is you go, "Oh my God, could I just see Indiana Jones in World War II?" Mangold had that same thought. And so you could say there's all these other references to the other movies, but that's a big reference to something that was frustrating to us, is like, "Oh, I want to see him in World War II." And I would also say you could divide criticism of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny amongst two groups: those that are obsessed with Force 10 from Navarone and host this podcast, and those that are going, "Hey, is that CGI? If I notice it, it must be bad." But so I mean, this movie goes full Force 10 from Navarone at the opening of it in World War II, and it's so rewarding because you're like, "Oh, I'm finally seeing the World War II story I wanted to see," and it's maybe the best Indiana Jones, segment and action since maybe the last, the truck chase from Raiders. I mean, it's like,
yeah, it is full on action city at the top. It's great, and it's him doing what I've enjoyed the most about Indy for rewatch after rewatch of Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's an enormous pain in the ass. So now you have Thomas Kretschmann. Yeah, you have Thomas Kretschmann as Colonel Weber, right? Who I remember him. He was in Wanted, I think. Was he in King Kong? He's in King Kong. Captain the boat, I think, in King Kong. But
Kretschmann is also in Avengers: Age of Ultron, isn't he? He's Baron von Sydow, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But Kretschmann he's the bad guy at the opening of
he's the new guy. He's the new German who's annoyed by the gnat that is Indiana Jones. Following up Colonel Dietrich and Colonel what is his name? Vogel, General Vogel in Last Crusade.
The General Vogel, right.
They try and do a bunch of things to him that I won't say for fear of spoiler. But actually, so anyway, he's in there now, and he's just annoying, and time and time again to him. Now, my little beefs with old Indiana Jones movies have passed, and taking a cue from you, they don't ruin the whole movie for me. But I never was a big fan of the tapestries scene in Last Crusade. Okay. Hopefully, it's comedic now that I just keep bringing it up as obnoxious. Because
although somebody pointed out that's a reference, the Scottish thing is with Sean Connery in it. That's somewhat of a reference to the Scottish thing is because of Sean Connery. But anyway, go ahead.
But so he's never had to play characters or whatever to get his way. Indiana Jones just beats people up, moves them out of the way, and gets done what he needs to accomplish. He's got stuff to do. And the weird thing about the tapestry scene, the weirdest part of it, is even he bails on his bit and just punches. So maybe we just punch the guy and not do the whole bit. So
which Mangold does.
Early in this movie, Indiana's got to get a car because he's got to chase down a train. He just knocks on the window. Duk, duk, duk. Guy rolls down the window. Throws the guy out, takes the car. I'm like, he gets it. Mangold gets it. I like the no nonsense.
He gets it.
Indy. I don't need the bits because this is a funny movie, but it doesn't have jokes, and that's what I appreciate.
Right. Well, and I'll back you up one little step there too. I love at the beginning of this movie, we are in World War II. This is all very exciting, but immediately I'm like, oh, he was an enlisted man. He's in the military. I'm thinking, oh, it's the war in Indiana Jones. And I even thought this for Crystal Skull, even when I thought, oh, gosh, what would it be cool seeing Indiana Jones in World War II? But by the way, I have to say, I think James Mangold has seen Don Winslow of the Navy before he did this part. What I love about this is, so the first thing they do is capture Indiana Jones. You know, they have a bag over his head. We get the reveal, which is in the trailer. You know, they pull the thing off, and it's kind of like they pull him out of the trunk in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, our Indiana Jones intro, now that we are a franchise, it kind of begins with him under the gun now more. Pretty classy in Temple of Doom, but he is in the middle of a mission and that sort of stuff. You know, but he's in a trunk in Crystal Skull. Here he's captured. And I'm just thinking to myself, he's been captured as an officer in the Army, this is just World War II stuff. It never occurred to me that he's working behind, like, while World War II is going on, he's finding out about other things that the Nazis are trying to capture, much like the Lost Ark. And he's now working outside of the military, not for some sort of special agency, but like ditched his boat so he could go get the thing that the Nazis are trying to get to, you know, destroy the world with or whatever. And so it just never occurred to me. Basically, this movie begins with the last 20 minutes of any other Indiana Jones movie, which was genius because they don't tell us, the audience. So, for example, you watch the 20 minutes in Cairo before they escape Cairo in Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you just begun there, that would be very much within the format that Lucas and Spielberg love, which is a serial. So, you know, much like Star Wars, you begin with episode 4 and you'll get your backstory very quickly. We don't have to see the Clone Wars for Star Wars to exist, you know, and much like this, except now you get what the adventure has been in the 90-minute movie we did not see before this, which is, I mean, absolutely Lucas and Spielberg, like to a T, like the idea of serialized story. You know, this might as well become like episode 6, you know, Indiana Jones or whatever. It could begin that way. Because once they start trying to get information out of him, you go, oh my God, he's been working behind enemy lines. And then they introduce the Belloc. So once again, Thomas Kretschmann is, you know, Dietrich or the German, he's there for the whole cause, but underneath them is someone that they enlisted to find these treasures, just like Belloc, who is working on his own thing because he is actually, you know, and he's got even more plans of like, we should get this and using the Nazis to find something else. That was just so good, so pitch perfect Indiana Jones that I was like, does Mangold get Indiana Jones even better than Lucas and Spielberg? Because for all the things we hear about serialized storytelling in Raiders, well, you certainly don't notice that the first time you watch it. You read it in a magazine, then you go back and watch it, and you go, oh yeah, I guess the first part would end like right before he grabbed the idol and the things start to collapse and like tune in next week. You know, like you go, oh, I can see how that is. But you got to read it and then internalize it. But here you're like, oh, we are in, you know, I didn't hear the recap of last week's serial segment, but clearly I can tell what it was. Like Indiana Jones broke away from his troops and went and found the thing because he found out that, you know, and you're like, that is Indiana Jones AF. And I think that's just totally lost on critics who are not obsessed with these things like we are, because this movie is for the Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford obsessed. It's for you and I. And when I read a negative criticism, I go, it ain't for you. Look at how you don't get it with what you're saying about it.
Well, and another big criticism criticism fail for critics is it's not the movie they want it to be.
No.
I want to see an Indiana Jones movie where he's old. Well, he is old. Okay?
Oh my God!
And how about if you make a movie about Indiana Jones who is old? First of all, you stick him in front of the shadow of a mushroom cloud, and he has to look at that and say, "Okay, I have dealt with Nazis, but this is next level." And then you stick him in front of the space
real face melter.
Then you stick him in front of the space race, upending his class and being celebrated out on the streets, where he's like, I love the past and now America's obsessed with the future. So he it's a different place for him, and if you don't acknowledge that, you're failing the character and you're pleasing the dopey critics who want to make a bad movie because you're a critic, you're not a filmmaker. Boom.
And do critics reveal that they're not filmmakers? Well, look, obviously, the problem with the internet and social media is we as a species were never meant to know what everybody thought about everything. It's I just didn't want to know that these people were this dumb about it. But I mean, when it comes to, like, again, the Ian Malcolm paradox, which is you thought so much about whether you could, you didn't think if you should. That applies to movie criticism. Oh, great, everybody can be a movie. Yeah. Oh, great, everybody can be a movie critic? Well, maybe that shouldn't be the case, because you do have to take certain things. And I know I'm very extreme. My extreme is all movies are good. You just have to put in the work. Because the point is movies should be good. That's the very premise of you being a movie critic is I am to take under the assumption that it is because you love movies. But it's not. It's because people want to be critics. And you're like, oh, well, then I have no respect for your opinion, because the whole point is you should love movies. You should love how movies are made. You should love how they're developed. You should love the lineage of movies, all this sort of stuff. And you should certainly, in the middle of it, recognize all the Hitchcock shit that Mangold is doing. This comes off so much like a North by Northwest, including John Williams turning in maybe the most Bernard Herrmann score he's ever turned in.
Okay, let's talk about him for a second without spoilers again. But much like we talked about with Temple of Doom, early in that movie, you've got the mountain that superimposes into the gong in the nightclub, right? And the guy hits the gong. They pan over to the dragon, but right before we get to anything goes, Williams goes boom, 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 and you're like, oh, is that John Williams? I know John Williams. Oh, I can relax. This is going to be great. And the same thing happens here. And not only do you get a little bit of Williams at the top and the credit font as well to make you feel comfortable, but then you get the belly of the beast brought back early. Like, Williams has a number of great themes here, including Helena's theme, which I think is his finest hour in the new score, and the various versions of it throughout the film. But he also brilliantly brings back scores of the past when necessary, and sure enough, as soon as we meet Voller, Schmidt, we hear the belly of the beast, which was bam, bum, 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 which I can't even. It's sort of an off tempo, sort of crazy, make you feel uncomfortable Nazi, theme with low notes, and it's just really, really good. And he filtered that in there, and I was like, oh, that's right, these are the Germans, and here's your little musical reminder. Remember, you hated them. You hate these guys. That's really great. And then and then I felt comfortable. Then I was like, we got Williams on board.
Yeah, and I got to say, Williams blends into the background a lot in this movie, and I'm excited to listen to the full scores, because certainly during like the parade chase, or there's another chase later in the movie, which we can give details on that in a bit. Not super spoiler, but
chase,
the Tangiers chase, which I do love the Indiana Jones movie line when they're running through the streets and these streets are impossible. I mean, and that is such a riff on Cairo. Indiana Jones getting lost in the Cairo streets. So it's just like I'm saying, when you're making a franchise movie, well, what is it that you want to repeat? And for Mangold, it's like, oh, well, there's got to be a chase where the streets are too tight, because that's in Raiders, right? I mean, Mangold obviously loves Raiders way more than Temple of Doom or Last Crusade or Crystal Skull. I think he considers those other three movies also Indiana Jones movies, but there was only one for Mangold, because things like that, it's such a great little reference in the Tangiers, but done completely differently, completely modern, and has a complete spin on itself. It's almost like, well, what if we took the Cairo chase and then combined it with the truck chase? You're like, oh, so tight streets. How do you get through tight streets and vehicles? And then Mangold, the director of Night and Day, is off and running in his amazing brain for an extremely similar brain to Spielberg's of recognizing how to put a good action sequence together. What are the barriers? So in the Cairo chase, it's easy for Indiana Jones to get lost, which culminates in him running into the center square, and now everybody has a basket. And you don't realize that until you go into his eyes and you pull back and you go, oh, what's he looking at? Now, Mangold does that type of shot a bunch of times. That's very Spielberg. But I can't say he hasn't done it in other movies because I think he's just a very Spielberg-style director.
Yeah, I mean, you could see him making Minority Report.
Uh-huh.
You could see him making...
Oh, God, yeah.
You could see him making perhaps Munich. And, of course, now that I've seen this, you could see him making Last Crusade. So...
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a number of films he could make.
But the
Bridge of Spies, he would kick Bridge of Spies.
It's blasphemous to say, but now I think he's proven himself. I think he might have done Bridge of Spies better than Spielberg. But there's a lot of great Spielberg touches that aren't like classic E.T. Spielberg touches in that movie. Yeah. Like there's two Spielbergs we know.
The adult, the Lincoln Spielberg that's around a lot now in the Post and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of Lincoln Spielberg, I don't think Mangold's. I don't know. He might be that type of director too. Mm-hmm. Well, what was I saying? Besides Tangiers, what was the opening action sequence? Anyway, move on.
Oh, well, there's World War II, the parade, and then Tangier.
Yeah, well, let's just keep talking about World War II.
Yeah. So, sure.
Yeah.
How about that bomb sequence? Okay, hang on a sec.
Wait a second. Spielberg AF.
Now, put the audio down. Don't go away, Roach Smythe, but we'll put the audio down and we'll have you back in just a second.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that is so Spielberg. That is like that. How do you get suspense out of that? How do you get suspense out of something that happens instantaneously? And so for everybody but Roach Smythe, it falls through the ceiling after he's being hung by the neck, by the Nazis. So it's just like he's gotten in so much trouble, and now a bomb comes, and man, it hits. A hole in the floor, is held by the carpet, just like in Money Pit, produced by Steven Spielberg.
Like Money Pit, that's what I thought of too.
And slowly does the thing, and they all look at each other. That is so Spielberg. It's amazing. And then
eventually, kaboom!
Boom! And now Indiana Jones has escaped, and and now he's back to the train sequence. So we'll go to the train next.
You can hang him, you can shoot him, you can throw him from a train. He won't. He's pesky. It's great about him.
Yeah. Okay, you can take that off now.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. That's a great method, by the way, because that's only like 2 minutes of things that we just want to make sure people experience in real time. But now, again, they know it starts with World War II, so we can talk more about World War II. Here's the other thing about Indiana Jones, and I'll say this about, and what I said when I came out of the theater, Paul, was this is not just this is not just a sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, or this is not just something that's in that mode, but this is an adaptation of the Jim Steranko drawings of Indiana Jones. Yeah. Okay,
it's very specific. I like it.
Very specific. Well, but not for James Mangold. He knows that. Now, and you're right. Every dipshit who reviewed this movie, they don't know there's a Jim Steranko drawing. They don't know Mac Bolan novels. But in this one, you could see every scene in this movie of like action adventure totally painted on a two-fisted adventure comic book. Like this really went back to the man of action. What does a man of action do? Why, he climbs mountains and runs along trains and jumps into rivers and punches Nazis and he globe hops, of course, and then he scuba dives and he gets buried treasure and it's like, if somebody'd never seen an Indiana Jones movie, this is definitely their Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like if this is someone's first Indiana Jones movie, they would definitely go, oh, I get this type of event. There's nothing like this type of adventure right now. Even though it falls into the Marvel storytelling style, which you realize now was just very prescient about how it ripped off Raiders or Star Wars, It's like, because the storytelling in this feels so modern. You're like, oh, this feels exactly like a Marvel movie. And then you go, oh, Marvel feels like Raiders of the Lost. Okay, gotcha. oh, that's right, they're all based on serialized storytelling. Comic books are serialized, and Kevin Feige got that more than humanity until he proved himself 26 movies in.
Yeah. No,
so
that's true.
I just love the Two Fists Adventure because they're on a train. Now he's on a train full of Nazis.
Too many Nazis.
And what is the artifact that he's going after at the beginning? And I don't know if this is a spoiler alert because it's dispelled with fairly quickly. It's a.
We'll put it up anyway. There we go.
2 minutes on this one, just 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes.
The spear, which is an obvious reference to the Cup of Christ, right? Because so I love that he takes what we would consider a nod to the other movie and dispels it immediately, right? Because the spear is a fake.
Yeah, we're not religious because there you go. Indiana Jones movies, well, he always goes after a religious artifact, right? Nope, not the stones, like you said, and then but the Holy Grail, okay, but not the crystal skull. Oh, okay, but the knife, oh, not the knife. Okay, so we can have fun with this and do what we want.
Okay, we can come back. I think that's enough for the moment. All right, so I love that, and that since he's got a Belloc behind the lines, who we know is Mads Mikkelsen, is what's that guy's name?
Dr. Schmidt or Jürgen Voller.
Oh, that's right. He goes by two names. Yeah. So, and I love that Voller, just like Indiana Jones, there's a lot more good archaeology and well, not good archaeology because archaeology is mostly brushing dirt, but but the idea that the Voller, knows of something of more value on this train full of Nazi plunder. So, like Indiana Jones kind of wants this whole train to get put in a museum. But then we got, this is a classic boy adventure. What do we got? We got a train. We have a great train robbery style sequence. You got Indiana Jones as an adult running along the top of a train, which is obviously a reference to Last Crusade, but we never saw him do it as an adult, as a real Indiana Jones with the full, whip and hat and everything like that. But it's a train full of Nazis. And I love all the stuff that goes on in that train because he's like train car to train car. He has to fool these people this way. They catch up to it because the movie doesn't let him get away with anything. They catch him, they bust him. The way they bust him is very funny. We don't need to mention that too, but it's classic Spielberg storytelling. The guys look at him and they look down to what we won't mention as the reason that they realize he's not a real officer, but he has to. There's so many times he runs into another car and it's just full of Nazis and they all turn looking up at him, like,
yeah,
why would it be?
It's a Nazi train with, if it's not antiquities, it's Nazis.
Yeah.
And I love how Schmidt Voller is first introduced. He's not like a Belloc. He's sort of a Nerdenheimer, a little bit, and he can't get.
And he looks like Toad.
Can't get the respect, from that he wants from Colonel. What's his name? Colonel Weber. I never say his name, but I looked it up.
Because
that's Kretschmann's character. But then that feeds exceptionally well to, well, damn it, I'm going to get the respect I deserve as we cut to the future. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. And I do love that I love that Voller's motivation is that I love theirs, and I don't think you need to have a spoiler for this. It's one line, and I don't think anybody will know when it's coming. But when he gets the room service at one time, and he's just like signing the check, and he goes, by the way, what does he go? He goes, by the way, the Nazis. What is it? The Nazis didn't lose.
Oh, Hitler didn't. The Americans didn't win the war. Hitler lost it.
Yeah, that's what he says when he hands the check over for the dinner. It's like, wow, this guy's got a belief system.
No, he's from the minute the server gets there with the food, right on through doing the damn interview with the guy talking about, interviewed for getting involved in the space program. That's factual that there were former Nazis who got involved in America's space program. And so he stops the interview pretty much to say, someone says, you want to press that jacket before we meet the president? He says, if the president has a problem with creases, he may want to find a different physicist or something like the guy is just It's out front. All of his badness is out front, and his that desire for recognition that he will never seemingly be because we don't know him. We know Hitler. We even know the guys who went to the moon, but it's never him. But damn it, that's going to change is when he gets his hands on the thing.
And it's rewarding the second time you see the movie too, which you and I have seen it twice, because when you go back to the top of this movie, knowing how Voller is like, how he's obsessed with what went wrong with the war, and then you go back to the top, and the people don't believe him about this artifact or that this artifact's more valuable, and you can just see him going, "This is why we're losing the war. Like you guys do not get it." Yeah. So he's like on his own team, as is Indiana Jones. He's not a soldier anymore. Now he's trying to save artifacts, or what he thinks is a certain artifact. And then when they find out that thing about the initial artifact, and everybody realizes, oh, when Hitler finds that out, we're all dead. So okay, Voller, that whole sort of like my enemy of my enemy is my friend. The changing allegiance that they go, oh, okay, we should listen to Voller. Oh, okay, so we should stop Indiana Jones? Okay. Like that's all done in 20 minutes of like plot points and stuff. And it's just like, it is a absolute perfect first segment in a serial. And I said this whole thing, it absolutely feels even more than Raiders like it could be broken down into 6 issues of the adventures of Indiana Jones. Here's the one where he does this. Here's the one where he goes to get this part of it. It's a 6-issue limited series. And by the 6th one, he'll put these parts together and make all the discoveries. And the 6th issue will be, when we're where they're headed. So it did that so good.
Speaking of putting those two things together, and McMurray says, in DC Comics, the Nazis use the Spear of Destiny to keep superheroes like Superman out of World War II. Do you know how that happened? Like, what is that all about? And is the Spear of Destiny the Lance of Longinus or whatever it was? Is that the same
I think
thing?
That's the name for this one. But I think that's a Wonder Woman artifact. That's like from the island of Themyscira or something like that.
They have Spear and Hellboy as well.
Oh, so that must be a real artifact, or it must be a real legendary thing. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's cool. So then they are, and what I guess is the Dial of Destiny itself.
Oh, and sorry. What are the powers of the Lance of Longinus? That is a spoiler.
Oh, okay. I love that. That's just something that's much like James Bond. We always love, and they stopped doing this because they started having the opening adventure be something that continued later in the story, and this one does too. But I love that it's dispelled initially. The mission later, the results of the mission inform the rest of the movie, but they do get to have their cake and eat it too, because it gets to be a James Bond movie with a disposable mission at the top in some form, like, oh, this is just a thing Indiana Jones doing. We're just catching up with James Bond or Indiana Jones doing his last thing. After he's conquered that, well, then he'll go get his mission or whatever. Now, obviously, part of this from the beginning carries over, but that's pretty cool.
And what'd you make of the de-aging? Now, in movies,
I believe that was. I don't know if that was Longinus. I believe that was Biggest Dickus.
Biggest.
He has a wife, In your buttocks.
I was wondering what you thought of the de-aging, because I didn't mind so much. I didn't mind in like Tron Legacy or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
No.
For some reason, The Irishman, it really bothered me. But here's 2 reasons why I think it worked better here. Because, number 1, you have so much damn action, who gives a shit? And 2, a lot of nighttime stuff. A lot of nighttime scenes and nighttime shading tend to mask what could otherwise stand out, I think, better than if it were just an all-daytime sequence.
Yeah. Here is the thing about the de-aging in this and The Irishman that people are not thinking of. And first of all, nothing is worse than somebody on social media who has not earned my respect. They are just making comments about movies, much like dipshits my entire life. But now they have a platform, and I'm supposed to assume that they know what they're talking about? Right. Just because you got a Twitter account, you know what movies are all about? What? Huh? What the hell are you talking about? The thing about this is that people do not recognize it is de-aging while he runs, jumps, falls, goes upside down, gets blown up, lightning, storms, goes from into darkness, out of darkness, head out the window,
in a car,
blowing hair,
on a motorcycle,
on a motorcycle, falling, parachuting, blowing up, diving into the water. And then people go, well, look at this deep fake of this 1 second that somebody did online, and you're like, yeah, is that in 8K? Is that in 8K on the screen? Is that in every conceivable possible lighting situation? Which is what Scorsese did, was to say, I'll do de-aging if it doesn't affect my filmmaking style at all. And they said, you shoot the movie however you want, Martin Scorsese. We, Industrial Light and Magic, will de-age under any circumstances. And he goes, okay. And then he puts Al Pacino in a blown out window with part of his face completely blown out in white light, an impossible lighting situation anyway, because then you have to light the other side of his face to even match that. And then they de-age him with that. They de-age him. Look at any de-aging before any of this sort of stuff. People kept their face straight forward, turned a little this way, turned a little this way. No. For Indiana Jones, it's this, and
he's swinging from a thing.
He's swinging from a noose, and then he's falling, and there's an explosion, and he hits, and he gets punched. There's a de-aged face getting punched. It's like the impossible standard they created with that. It is a flawless effect. Oh, did I see one flaw? Yeah, but you do realize, again, idiots, films are 24 frames a second, or 60. Depending upon if you're Peter Jackson, but it's 24 frames a second. You can't give me 1/24th of 1 minute of a 2-hour and 24-minute movie and go, look how bad this is. Trust me, I could find bad photos of you too, motherfucker. Are there bad photos of me? Do I look like that? I do not. So it's like, but that's an agenda. They're going in with an agenda. I hate when I recognize that there's CGI in movies. And since that's all that was written on Twitter, you wouldn't have even had to see it to know, oh, he's de-aged in this. He's de-aged in this. There's all these stories about de-aging. And it's like, what are we even talking about? Marvel goes and makes a 2-hour Secret Invasion show, or 3 or 4 hours. I don't know how long it's ultimately going to be. And all people are talking about is the opening animation for the credits. What's wrong with you people? You people don't deserve a Secret Invasion. You don't deserve any Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. But Twitter's not a real place. Those aren't real critics, and I don't pay that much attention to them. I just hear the rumbling. 48th of a second.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's basically what I was saying. So much kick-ass action is happening. Who cares?
Smithy's right.
I'm not paying attention to that.
Smithy's right, because in between each frame, there is a black frame that we do not see because of the persistence of vision. So that it's fully blacked out for one frame and then revealed.
So they're complaining about even less of a thing to possibly see that they're seeing and finding a problem with the whole movie. Right. What was Talia Shire's character's name in The Godfather for 3 points?
K. Not K.
K's Diane Keaton. Sister. Chat? You got it? All right, doesn't matter. All right, The point is, the scene I'm talking about where Sonny finds out that Carlo's been beating her, right? And so he goes to beat up Carlo, and he takes that one swing, and it doesn't come close to his face.
Right.
But so Godfather 1 star? It's
that frame gets 1 star.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing now? Critics? Is that how this works now? Because I'm pretty sure you're wrong about that. I'm pretty sure that has no appreciation of cinema, what you're saying there. Right. The Luke Skywalker tries to kick someone in Return of the Jedi and misses by this far. And there's a big joke of like, no, that's a well-placed force kick or whatever. But obviously, we know that stuntman didn't connect on that day. That's the real answer. Is, they didn't catch that on the day because there was no video playback back then. And also movies were only ever seen once back then. There was no video. Maybe if something was wildly popular, it would get a re-release, but everybody's freeze framing with the luxury of being home and you see that every once in a while, like someone picks the worst CGI shot of Thor: Love and Thunder, a movie with 8,000 CG shots that they don't comment on. I thought about that. I went to go see The Flash a second time because it's a masterpiece. And I'm like, well, I could pause any shot if you want. And, you're like, you didn't mention, first of all, what's so funny about The Flash is people are commenting because when he goes into the cyclotron thing, people are criticizing choices for being accidents. So the filmmaker said, Andy Muschietti said, and when he goes into this cyclotron, it's going to be these sort of like surrealistic versions of him. So when Ezra Miller, when Barry Allen sees himself in there, it's a rubbery kind of animated looking version of himself. Well, he's right there. We could see if they wanted to make it look 100% realistic, they would have just taken him and done it. But then later when that's done with various other characters and stuff like that, they're like, oh, look how bad they look. On purpose. You do realize Batman in the animated series doesn't look like a human being, but that's on purpose. Like, they made him look like an animated person because it fit the format. Like, you can't criticize a choice. It's a choice. So, I mean, you can't criticize it for being not what you'd prefer. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's not how I'd do it. Well, you didn't do it. You didn't cast you didn't cast Harrison Ford in 1981 either. So, you're way behind on this one with your choices. But the fact is that de-aging is flawless. And you could point out a flaw to me, but I would say you could round it up to there are none, or round it down to there are none. There's so few flaws in that you could round it down because of everything they do. And it's 20 minutes. And then they de-age him again later. Nobody had any thoughts on that one. It looks flawless too, because it's like
looks great. Yeah,
it's like frantic Harrison Ford at that point. Yeah,
but he's still got the whitish hair, so he's a little more random hearts if he had long hair.
A little more random parts, Harrison Ford. Yeah, but it's great. You get 3 Harrison Fords in this movie because of the 2 de-aged sequences. Which I guess, spoiler alert, there's a second de-age sequence.
I want to get to a bunch of stuff I gotta show people on this computer.
Please, I've gone on and on and on and on and on. And what's great is great point. No comments on that, internet, because you didn't notice. Because you didn't notice. Yeah.
Yeah, geniuses.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh yeah, and that's everybody's a difficult child too. Like, well, I think, but that's the same person that's like, actually, King of the Crystal Skull is the best. Fight me on it. They do that sort of thing. And you're like, on a long enough timeline, everything's retro. So why would you even bother hating this movie? In just 5 years, you're going to go, well, actually, it's a masterpiece. And that'll be real easy to say because this is a really good movie. Same thing with The Flash. The future generations that get to have that as retro will be like, I do not understand what the beef was at the time. But it's not like nobody's going to see these movies either. There's all this sort of stuff of like, oh, can you believe it's a bomb because it only made $100 billion on the first day instead of $200 billion or whatever they're saying. It's like, what is the standard? Also, when did you become such like corporate elites? Like, that's the thing you're supposed to be fighting against. Is going, well, I don't care what it made. It's a piece of art, and we shouldn't define these things based on their box office. Where'd that guy go that used to say that? I'm like, where's these guys? Like, oh, well, I went and checked the box office numbers on this movie I'll never see, and seems like this movie I'll never see and don't like because I'm not a real movie fan. Turns out it's bad because it didn't make enough money, and all this sort of stuff. Like, when did you become the fucking corporate masters of that? Like, oh, you and Warner Brothers must be so upset together. And also, by the way, there's this whole thing of like, we need to. Everybody, oh my God, they all have the same thoughts as each other the next day. This was so obnoxious. One guy goes on and goes, these movies are too expensive. These movies are made for too much money and there's sequels and stuff like that. And I'm like, and there's a whole thing of like, make movies for less than $300 million that aren't sequels or based on existing IP. And I'm like, well, Bros will be so happy to hear that. Thank you. Where was your money, 6 months ago for Bros? Where was your money for Amsterdam? Will be so happy to hear that you don't think things should cost a lot of money and should not be based on existing IP. And it bombs.
Tell me how you liked Past Lives. Yeah.
Right. Oh, Past Lives will be so happy that you now support it. Like.
I got a clip of Adam looking at the reviews on Friday, the night after Dial of Destiny opened.
Okay.
Not the reviews, but the Twitter comments. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, now within Indiana Jones, within any Harrison Ford movie opening, in this one, he's selling cars like he's supposed to. There's plenty.
Paul?
Yeah.
I'm afraid I've had too much coffee since I've been here because I tested with you an hour ago. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Can you take me off real quick? And I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, there he goes. Oh, good, because I got a ton of crap to share with you guys. Because there is a new Harrison Ford anything, but this one requires more press than most. He's gone out and done a ton of it. So if you get if you live in LA, get this. If you have access to anything online, this interview is worth it. What a great title. There's no movie star like Harrison Ford, and there never will be again. This is the LA Times. Great article, quick read, still covers a lot of ground, even though it's quick, but definitely worth checking that out with some cool new photos. Harrison here looking at all his 81 this month. And there he is as well. I think this is that same article. One black and white shot looking cool. Speaking of looking cool, when something like this comes out, I also hit the newsstand. So I did. He's an Esquire. Oh, this is good stuff. I haven't read much of it, but what I've read so far is pretty good. I want to share a great quote that he says. I think someone asked him who would win in a fight, you or like Indiana Jones or Han Solo? And he says, me, asshole. I don't want to fucking make shit up like that. I mean, what are you asking me that crap for? Harrison Ford. He's the man. He knows bullshit when he smells it. And so he called it out, which is good. So here's another alternate cover for that. Looking pretty cool. I've read a little bit more of this, but I can't wait to dive into it entirely. And I'm, if you've met me, I still have CDs. I still have DVDs, which are here. They're just up there, and so I like magazines. So I went out and I got one. See you guys commenting on there. Oh, fuck yeah, I want some pancakes. Right? That's his great, most likely to be Emmy-nominated performance in Shrinking. You got to go out and see that if you've not jumped over to Apple TV and watched that show. They talk about his affinity for smoking weed. Well, we'll find out. I don't know. He probably should. I'm sure he has in the past. I'd ask it if I were talking to him. Paul, I want to hear how you were asked last minute to the premiere and how exciting was to see John Williams performing on stage. I was not invited to the premiere. That's false information, unfortunately. My friend Justin went, but I did not go. I was invited to a press screening actually the week before that. So I saw this movie before the premiere, but then twice in theaters since. So Dial of Destiny is my jam. The premiere would have been fun. Yeah. But I'm going to John Williams this weekend at the Hollywood Bowl. And if you're in LA, we recommend you do the same. All right, here are the photos from that Esquire magazine. Pretty cool stuff. Harrison looking pensive. Harrison looking like you just asked him a question about whether he smokes pot. Harrison looking cool. Harrison looking, it kind of looks like he probably is hanging on his ranch. And
he's from.
There he is. Just looking at the photos from the Esquire magazine.
Oh, cool. I got to get that issue. Look at that.
That's pretty cool, whatever the hell.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was deciding to go through these because he went away for a second. So that's Esquire.
No, good call.
Also, come on. I know it's People. People's kind of dopey, but look at that title. America's Greatest Movie Hero. Yes?
This is just so cemented it.
Yeah.
You sent me that article, There Will Never Be Another Harrison Ford.
I started with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What a great title for it. And it's how lucky are we to have another John Wayne?
Who will have this longevity? I mean, it's not going to happen.
No.
Chris Pratt? No.
No.
As soon as he gets out of a franchise, you can't pull people in. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we've been able to clock that in the Ford Fiesta, which I don't care how long it takes to get through these movies, take longer. But
I know, clearly we don't care.
Well, it's mostly because of scheduling thing, but I'm like, no, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to enjoy clearing presentation. I'm not going to shove it in on the road watching it on iPhone so I can make our deadline, but
yeah. And then Total Film, not cheap, but from overseas. That was a great cover, I thought. So I'll read everything that they're up to. Now that I've seen it, of course, I still get a little shaky sometimes buying a magazine before I've seen the movie. I don't want to read too much.
But I also just love the retro feeling of, when I was a kid, I still have every single magazine with Return of the Jedi on the cover from that month in '83.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I was playing that game for like 1 week, where let's look at my magazines because they're all down here. These are all magazines with Harrison Ford on the cover.
Yeah.
So
we got but we're just never going to have this much Harrison Ford influx ever again. He's not going to be on the cover of every mag. I never thought it was going to happen again. The big joke when we started this show was we'll cover every Harrison Ford movie from Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round all the way to Call of the Wild. Because we're like, well, he's obviously kind of sundowning in terms of an actor. Like Call of the Wild's clearly like, all right, we're in a final phase here where he's just going to ramp down and end on a Welcome to Collinwood or whatever.
Nope.
Look at that. I need all these posters too.
Let's go through them real quick. These were the latest batch before the movie opened. So
that's awesome. Oh my God. How great. Okay. Winslow.
Don
Winslow of the Navy. How great does this guy? This guy looks like he's ripped straight. Speaking of Spielberg, looks like he's ripped straight out of Tintin. He's just got what a classic look he's got. And people say the character's wasted or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
it's a little overcast. You didn't need a name in there because people would have expected more for him to do, and maybe have him be a little developed. But I read. I think Roca today said, look, if you're Banderas, will you not be in an Indiana Jones movie? He didn't say it in as many words, but that's kind of the deal.
Well, and it's like, Katanga isn't in Raiders that long either. Now, granted, it's, he wasn't the most famous actor cast in that, but it's like, it's a Katanga reference. Katanga's there for the scenes he needs to be to get Indiana Jones from here to here. The whole point there is that Indiana Jones has done this so long. He's got people everywhere. Meet me in Omar's. He knows what that does. He knows that he goes into the circle there, that he knows those people will hide his truck and all that sort of stuff. And that, Sala will help him here and that Katanga will help him here. And so this character, again, which is the character's name?
I can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, Captain Banderas. Anyway.
And then you got her, of course, who I think she's a ton of fun.
She's the best. She's amazing. What an amazing talent.
They're talking about a movie with her. If we don't get it, I'm fine. Because she had the Temple of Doom arc, Fortune and Glory to I understand its power now. And so we're good. It was a good performance and a good character, good fun character.
And I love, it's become a tradition, again, like I say, you don't know how to make a franchise until you've made the third one or whatever. The idea in which they did a lot of in Crystal Skull. I think this movie makes Crystal Skull better, and here's one of the reasons is
Do I need to hit the thing? No? I don't know. No? We'll leave it up. Go ahead.
Let me think. Well, okay.
I'll follow up with you on that.
2 minutes.
And I'll have
she is working on her own side. So, of course, you come in, you assume she's working with Indiana Jones. But just like so many other characters, certainly in Crystal Skull, people are working for their own team and then screw Indiana Jones over. That wasn't a mainstay until I feel Crystal Skull. And now this is a kind of Crystal Skull element of her going, no, I'm on my own side here. But she's got the young Indiana Jones sort of thing of like she's in it for the fortune.
I think one of the finest moments.
And glory, because she says, then we get famous. Remember that? When he goes, why do you want to do this? And she goes, because we'll get famous. And you're like, oh, well, that's literally saying fortune and glory.
And it took us till the second viewings, we're still in spoiler mode, for me to really feel the effect of her pitch to him. Let's go find this thing like my dad, And he says, why would you chase something that drove your dad crazy?
Right.
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, of course, means didn't you? And it's a great line.
That is a great line. I didn't even catch that. Yeah.
Took me 2 screenings, but there's a lot of that throughout this whole movie that just takes you a second. Like it was pointed out to me that we're in spoiler territory. Let's stay there for a sec. It's pointed out to me that when Marion arrives, Indy takes the magnet off her face. It happens in the right-hand side of the screen because she opens the door to the fridge and he kind of puts his hand on it and then removes it.
Right.
Didn't catch that. Little things like the dragons that show up in the puppet show on Sicily that young Teddy is watching.
I gotta catch this
really
again.
Cool.
Wow.
Right. But mainly, it's that monologue on the boat. Indy's boat monologue is everything, and it takes the canon. It says the canon. It says Crystal Skull is canon, and you all laughed, no shy on this one. Well, this is what happened, and it killed everything about what you loved. about
because,
Indiana
and I'll
Jones.
say this while in spoiler as well, that she has the freewheeling adventure side of it, and super spoilers, she gets excited when they escape from the location we were just talking about, and he says, and she's like, "Woohoo, woohoo!" And he's like, I just lost my friend.
He was murdered.
He's just murdered. Like, this is serious, and you are acting like young Indiana Jones there, and I'm not young Indiana Jones anymore, and I know better. My friend was just murdered. Like, holy, and you know what? As an audience member too, we're like, yeah, that was so much fun. We got away from there. That was awesome. And then that line, and you're like, oh, that's right. But yeah, he brings it down. Oh man.
Yeah, a lot of collateral damage, but it's early on, of course, they had to be established for him to be wanted, but still a lot of people getting off, which was rough, but the stakes were high. I mean, what are you gonna do? All right, we're back because I want to go through more of these picks. This one, of course, for Baz. Every time he says Baz, it's great because it sounds like Baz, give me that. He sounds like he's yelling at his dad. It's just hilarious. And then you had Shawnette Renee Wilson.
What
total
a great look.
69 look, right? It was the best.
Loved that. Loved when they went full 69 with these looks like this.
By the way, I still edit and work on the D23 Inside Disney podcast, which has changed a lot recently, but we just interviewed Mangold, Shawnette Renee Wilson, Mickelson, Boyd Holbrook, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and Ethan Isidore, who played Teddy. So, who played Teddy? Where is he? Played Teddy. So, fun to hear her talk about her character because there's historical significance in Shawnette Wilson's CIA character. They were. She said, a lot of black people were signed up to infiltrate.
Black Panthers, probably.
Black Panthers. She said Black Panthers. Unfortunately, but it was kind of like the rough angle on all this, but.
But isn't it interesting that? But because of they were enlisted to, there's probably some lineage to black CIA and FBI people now because of the racist use of that back then. But that's probably why some people now are it probably actually weirdly broke down a color barrier to reinforce a color barrier. That's the way that works. What you think of Teddy? He was okay.
All right. Well, we got to go back.
I mean, he's the short round of it.
We got to go here, okay, for a sec.
Okay.
Because the thing about him that made me nuts was when he is in Sicily and he steals a kid's money, he buys some gelato, then he gets captured, right? And I'm like, the little kid gets captured, the adults are doing shit. I never liked it when a little kid does something stupid and they got to go rescue him. Yeah. But so he had to win me back, and he does. Obviously, he steals the key he knocks the big guy in the water, steals his key, changes into the thing, comes back in, jumps down off.
Because he's the classic pickpocket kid, He's the classic that she takes in, much like Short Round. He's like, she has the same story that he had with Short Round and how he brought him in a way.
And Short Round's fun, but Teddy's not a loudmouth. He's more just kind of the second. To her. And she's always checking in. Are we losing the mission here? Are we still going after the money? What are we doing? Checking in with her and obviously riding with whichever way she goes. But he's not obnoxious for a kid character. He made that one move that I said, I don't need the kid getting the adults caught or in trouble or anything. But eventually he made up for it. So I was fine with that. All right.
What is...
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
One more thing.
No. Okay.
And he saves the day. I mean, if he didn't take the plane into the thing, we're done. So anyway, we're back.
Which and you don't have to put up the spoiler again, but I had forgotten that had happened, and I was like, oh, they're doomed. And then
I thought anyway, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like the end game of this movie is like, oh, there's no way back from this. So
there he is. Great look, right? Great actor. Everything was cool
actor,
about him.
great. Is Mads Mikkelsen the new Terrence Stamp of approval? Like, is there anything there any movie that is bad while he's on screen?
Call me drunk.
Or no movie with him in it can be all that bad, to use the Ebert's term.
Unfortunately, he came into the Harry Potter verse during the Fantastic Beasts part because he would have been great in the original. But everything else, he's man of all franchises: Star Wars, Marvel.
Yeah.
What's the other one I'm thinking of? Anyway, I don't know.
Well, and
and then
Well, he's willing to play a Nazi too, because he's got his own, thing about how Hitler should have won the war. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And then this was the last. There's one more poster that came out that has a huge spoiler on it, but I won't mention it.
Okay.
But this was great, and it was this third viewing where his
Look how cute he is.
His monologue got me very emotional. Just saying, and it was in the original teaser for the movie. I miss the desert. I miss the sea. And then, it was fun to listen to that because then you think, oh, they're going to go back on an adventure, but not solid. And it's sad to hear and be wistful about the days, that Indy feels probably the same way a little bit, but he buries it under a little bit of bitterness until he gets the chance to go and see it all again.
He's so cute there. Cam's right. He's so cute there. He's adorable. Loved seeing him return. Loved the way he returned and the little backstory they give of how he got where he was. That Indiana, was a benefactor to him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True.
And it's also you could fill in the gap, and I'm sure they wrote all kinds of extensive backstory about how Indiana Jones ended up being a benefactor for him, but I also have to assume it was probably during some sort of wartime. If he's in Cairo and all the things that are probably going on around that time in World War II and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, I got to get Saleh out of here. He can't stay here. So that's probably a whole other adventure. But great seeing him back.
Yeah, totally. What war did Mutt fight in Korea? Or fight in Korea? Too old for Nam?
Don't answer that for spoilers.
No, I don't know. Yeah, it's true. You're right. We're back. What am I doing?
Oh. Well, okay. I guess I hadn't thought of it, but I thought trying to figure that out would reveal something. But I guess not. I guess we don't know.
Who flew better from learning with fake controls, Teddy or Elijah Wood in Forever Young? Man, I haven't seen Forever Young in a long time.
No.
But that's funny.
It is interesting how they set up Teddy learning to fly as like a street hustler game.
What else do I have here? I got more stuff. I got this random shot. I just never seen that shot of The Force Awakens. I guess they're on a press tour or something. That's pretty cool.
Gotta be. Wow. I love they're all in cool sunglasses except for Adam Driver. Put digital sunglasses on him there.
Oh, speaking of Teddy, Ethan Isidore posted this. It's fun from the set of the movie. I guess somebody gave him a guitar and he was all excited.
He's got a very short round vibe, even in the behind the scenes stuff. Look at Harrison.
I know.
I think the Harrison Ford we're getting right now in the last year of TV and press, and now press for this, and K.R. Kwan. It's a whole new Harrison Ford. Look how happy he is there. Look how much fun he's having. Like Grumpy Harrison Ford is just gone. Except when he plays Grumpy Harrison Ford, and he's better at doing that than he ever has been because he's now not grumpy.
And he still plays Grumpy Harrison Ford occasionally in the press, but to comedic effect.
I'm from comicbook.com, so I think I would get straight up fired if I did not ask you about the recent photo from the Captain America set of you. And you had the eagle-eyed viewers noticed you were wearing ripped pants. Might we be seeing a Mr. Ford as the Red Hulk?
What is the Red Hulk?
It is Thaddeus Ross's alter ego. He's going to Hulk out.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You knew?
I know nothing.
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, he can just turn it on. It used to be his default, which is like, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to talk about that, But yeah, that's so great. He turns on his face there, like, huh? What? Huh? Because obviously either Marvel has even shot that, or obviously Marvel's going to let him know, and all this sort of stuff. It's so funny.
And then if there's any movie you're missing out on, they're all on Disney Plus.
Start the engine!
Oh boy.
Got a good screamer.
Trust me.
Oh wow, I love the little clips they chose there. Those were a lot of great oddball stuff. Just pulling the symbol off the front of the truck or stuff like that. Like I'm like, oh wow, that's a bunch
And a lot of
interesting
other
little
audio
choices.
pulled out too, like when he's climbing up the bridge there, the fallen bridge. I'm pretty sure there's score and other stuff under that, but they just kind of
Right.
like keeping it all, very specific for their purposes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
and then see Dial of Destiny in theater, but see all those other ones if you never have, and all the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which Brian Crew just mapped out for us on the recent recording for The Fugitive.
cool.
Well, I'm going to edit. I'm going to take that little clip out and post it separately. So if you want to know how to watch the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and what happened to them between the television show that they were and what they are now in Disney Plus, which I guess is Lucas rejiggering them into some kind of series of short films. It's interesting. I'm curious to watch all that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a classic Patreon thing. We should just, without even advertising it, just start watching those and doing those and just putting them up. And it's
the quicksand scene. The quicksand. No, it's a dry sand pit. You see the viscousness when it comes to that.
You see, yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, and ride that shrinking wave. It's really good.
Yeah, I still have a few episodes left of that, so I'm very excited.
Let's see. What else do I have?
So, Paul,
yo,
did you like Dial of Destiny?
I did, very much so. 3 times, I think. I should say. And here's some quick shots from my trip out to see it. Went with a gang, and did we all buy the $25 popcorn combo that included a hat on top of the cup that you bought, and then a tin? It was a tin of Indiana Jones popcorn. Hell yes, we did. And of course, we went to the Chinese theater, which right out front is the man's.
Yeah, exact same size of hands and feet. By the way, have I shown you that photo? I have the exact same size hands and feet as Harrison.
Share that next time. But yeah, that must have been right after Patriot Games, right? 6392.
Oh yeah, I never even put that together.
One of the largest IMAXs in the country. It looked and sounded awesome. The whole
I hope that's still there when I get home.
The whole street got in on it. When are you back? If it's like within the week, it should be fine. When Mission Impossible gets here, it might get the boot. On the 12th.
Okay, yeah, I'll be back in 2 days, so it should still be there because I got to go see it at the IMAX next to where I freaking live.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to see it in IMAX. That's so exciting. Look at that poster. That's the poster right there. Look at the IMAX logo and Indiana Jones font. Oh my God, that's the poster.
I need to get it. But I did get this poster. Yeah, the Fake Tours Prison.
Did?
So yeah,
I love that poster. Isn't it so good?
Totally. It's got everything. It's got everybody. It's cool.
Here, I'll show you something I got. Hold on 1 second here.
Oh, and then while you're looking for that, I'll just share that we went to the Mel's Diner. For those who don't know, I mean, Adam and I went here before, after a movie, but Mel's Diner is named and based off the Mel's Diner from American Graffiti. So there are photos all over the walls of George Lucas making American Graffiti. Mysteriously, no Harrison Ford pics, though. But
no, it's as if the permissions for that. It's if the permissions for that photo are harder to get than these photos.
Yeah, but after a Lucas produced movie, it was the perfect place to go for after movie eats.
Yeah, we discovered that after, what do we see? John Wick? We discovered that bar?
Yes, that was it, I think, yeah.
Or I know we went there after John Wick, but yeah, I just love that all the walls are in the back bar, a secret bar that Hollywood nobody knows is there, is nothing but George Lucas photos. There's not a single photo of anything of George Lucas in the back there. It is the George Lucas bar.
And I thought it would be empty again, but the El Capitan emptied out their screening of Indiana Jones, so people came in with like a different set of swag. The El Cap was giving out mini posters and Funko Pops.
Okay.
And so they all came in and we all filled up the tables and started talking about the movie. It was really cool. And don't be a schmuck. Be at least as good as these guys who went to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh, I love Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, Mr. Movies, right? He's out there saying, go see this in the theater. It's great.
Go see it in theaters.
Go see this in the theater. It's great.
Yeah. McQuarrie must have totally geeked out because he would get all the references that I'm bringing out, that were brought out in this, that are references in sort of like pace and style and tone and things of the first that weren't like deliberate references, but like, McQuarrie gets it, man. If anybody likes Chris McQuarrie, by the way, do a search for Chris McQuarrie in your podcast app, because he does these 3.5-hour shows with Empire Magazine, and they're just the most wonderful.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh God,
Empire's
look it up,
so
dude.
Great. Empire's
In fact,
the best.
I think for Empire he did 3 different ones. This is for Fallout, I think, and so I think the total's about 5.5 or 6 hours of McQuarrie talking about stuff, and he's so wonderfully verbose, and it's really good. Yes,
I'm still
I
not
have
getting
something to reveal.
We got to wrap this up soon, and I'm not getting to everything. Once again, last thing I'll share, though, is, of course, we know Captain America New World Order is now Captain America Brave New World, and there he is on the set with Cap himself, Anthony.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, my God. That is the Falcon who became Captain America. First of all, the Falcon was never. First of all, Paul, they were never going to make a Captain America movie in my lifetime. We all knew that. That was just too hard to make. He was too goody-goody. You know, people thought, oh, Superman is too goody-goody for cynical whatever year. They name whatever year they name, and they go, oh, it's too cynical for this, too cynical for that. And so then for Captain America to nail the goody-goody, and for Superman to not even do it with Man of Steel, you know, you're like, oh my God, the goody-goody thing, like the Captain America. I mean, they just nailed Captain America. I never thought my comic book as a kid was Captain America and the Falcon. I never thought we were going to see Falcon in a movie, and now they got Falcon as Captain America, which is a plot line even after I was even thinking about making these type of movies. And then and now there he is, Harrison Ford. What the? All right, I have a bit of show and tell, Paul, because. Yeah, and then we got to go. And then we'll go full spoilers next week, because I really don't want anybody to know. I mean, we just talked about the first 20 minutes with references down the line and stuff, because it's really cool. The chases are really cool. They're really well done. And we can get into details of how well they're done. But when you mentioned Tangiers, I do love the line, because I love when Indy refers to anything outside of the movies and you go, oh, that's right. He's had a lot of experiences we haven't seen. He's driving down the streets or whatever, and she goes, take a left here, take a left here. And he goes, I know Tangiers. And you're like, oh, he's already chased in Tangiers.
That's true.
In adventure we'll never see. He's like, oh, I know Tangiers. And you're like, he's done this before. But I am obsessed with action figures now, Paul, and of course, Indiana Jones. We're going to play add to cart sometime here soon, so I can order many more Indiana Jones action figures. But in Los Angeles, they do not have action figures if you go into Target. It's not even worth going into. I just don't even bother. And so I've done all my shopping online. Well, I'm back in the Midwest here, and there are toy stores. And when you go into Target, there are toys on the shelves, including...
Very nice.
So this guy has been in the passenger seat for all the driving I've been doing. This is the white tuxedo Indiana Jones. And Paul, it is the greatest action figure you've ever seen. He moves in every way. I mean, the damn head has 3 points of articulation. He can look up and to the side. He can look down and to the
Wow.
I mean,
That's
it's
cool.
just a really good Harrison Ford action figure. And of all things, the white tux, they were never going to make anything like the white tux Indiana Jones. So this is my little pal here.
We could recreate this for me one day. I saw online. Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, the Spider-Man one
with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to get. The question is, Paul, I did see Indiana Jones from the new movie along with Helena Shaw, and I don't know if I should get them or not, but I kind of really wanted to. But he does have the antidote as an accessory. They're like this tiny. I have to get like a little case so they don't get lost. Yeah, he has the antidote, the ashes of Nurhachi, the big sword, which he cuts the medallion down to run behind it with a big gong, and the diamond, which is extremely tiny, and the skewer, the flaming skewer that he throws into the guy's chest. It came with that too.
It comes with that? Wow.
It does. It's such a great reference. Well, much like the Brody comes with an apple. I'm like, that's genius. Like, what a tiny reference. So, yeah.
All right, hang on here. We're going to go in spoiler territory for just a second.
All right.
The Dial of Destiny is an enchanting bar of soap. Damn it. We're back.
What's the Irish Spring of Destiny?
All right. So what else do I have? Anything else? I got to go get this too. I just ordered it. Came in at the local newsstand. He was on.
That's so cool. Yeah, I got to get some magazines. That's another classic thing. It's like, boy, getting toys, magazines with Harrison Ford on it. It's like, that's why when I go to the store, like there's a couple I've seen that I'm like, should I get that? Should I not? But part of me is just like, it's never going to happen again. They're not going to be Indiana Jones on the shelves. They're never going to make an Indiana Jones movie again. It's like,
Harrison Ford is 5 years older than the guy that played old Indiana Jones on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Amazing.
All right, we got to get the hell out of here. But the point is, we like the movie. Couldn't tell.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Don't listen to anybody because it's a bunch of people that couldn't give a shit about Indiana Jones to begin with that are reviewing a movie that they have no business reviewing. And the only way they got the ability to review things is having an internet account. That is the entire qualifications for reviewing a movie nowadays.
Yeah, I got into it with a guy online, who's a friend and was talking movies. But, it's clear because he says so that he hasn't seen it, but he's not going to because of the old bitter alcoholic indie. I'm like, not alcoholic.
It's not for you.
And then I don't like them, too much CGI. I'm like, well, you don't know because you didn't see it. And it's like, I can't even, I don't know. Why would you wish ill will on this franchise? I don't understand. Especially if you're my age.
Yeah,
bizarre.
It's as Tom Hanks used to say, I think quoting someone else, I reject the premise of the question. I reject the premise of the criticism because you have revealed yourself to be not interested enough in movies, but more interested in being heard about talking about movies. So I reject the premise because if you can say that, to use, I think a better example, that, the bad CGI in the time tunnel in The Flash, and you're like, there are two versions of Ezra Miller for an hour and a half of that movie standing next to each other interacting. Like when you saw Multiplicity, all you looked at was that effect and you're like, ooh, they did that well or not. That is so good that nobody even mentions it. He's on screen with himself for 100 minutes of that movie. There are two Ezra Millers talking to each other for 100 minutes of that movie. And you go, that effect doesn't look very good. And I'm like, you have missed a whole lot of very good effects, I'm afraid.
And I got to go out on this one last thing.
Okay.
Since Jones drank from the Holy Grail, he should look a lot better than 80. But he left the area where the Grail was, right? That means it's all bets are off. Come on, Alan.
Right.
All right.
That's a real Raiders would have happened without Indiana Jones' opinion there.
Yeah. All right. I'm out of here, and we'll be back next week.
That's true. Let's do Multiplicity with all the Michael Keaton Batmans. Yeah, especially the one that's a Xerox of the Xerox, which would be which Batman? Batmite.
All right, we'll see you next week. We'll talk. I'm assuming, right? We'll get you back
hey,
here. Paul, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Paul, would you like to talk about Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford next week as well?
Yes.
Let's do it.
1, 2, 3.